No one warns you that jealousy doesn't always look like hatred. Sometimes it looks like clapping a little too hard, smiling a second too long, feeling proud of someone while something sour tightens behind your ribs. You tell yourself it's harmless, mature, normal, but then it happens again. You scroll past their achievement and your chest goes cold, not angry, not sad, just smaller, as if their win quietly erased something in you. You replay old conversations at night, wondering when life started handing out futures and why yours feels delayed. Here's the question that hurts more than jealousy itself. Why does someone else's success feel like proof of your own failure, even when you love them? This isn't about being a bad friend. It's about an invisible comparison loop most people are trapped in without language for it. And once you see it, you can't unsee how it's been shaping your relationships, your ambition, and the way you talk to yourself in the dark. You don't notice it right away. That's the cruel part. It begins as a smile you've practiced your whole life, easy, automatic, socially correct. The kind that appears the moment someone says your friend got promoted, engaged, published, noticed. Your face responds before your body can object. You say the right words. You even mean them, mostly. And then, somewhere lower, something collapses. It's subtle, a tightening behind the sternum, a faint drop in temperature, like the room lost a degree without permission. You stay present in the conversation, nodding, laughing, asking questions, but part of you has quietly stepped back, watching yourself perform support while carrying a weight you didn't agree to pick up. Later, when you're alone, the feeling sharpens, not into anger, not even sadness, into something harder to justify, a sense of being eclipsed, as if their success didn't just add to the world, but rearranged it, placing you slightly more in the shadow than you were before. This is the moment most people misunderstand. They think jealousy announces itself loudly, that it comes with resentment, bitterness, ill intent, but the jealousy that survives inside good people is quieter, polite. It wears the costume of maturity. It says, "I'm happy for them," while privately asking, "What does this say about me?" You don't want to be this person. You argue with the feeling. You remind yourself that life isn't a race, that everyone moves at different speeds, that comparison is pointless. And for a few minutes, the logic works. Until the next update, the next milestone, the next reminder that time is moving and you're still waiting for something unnamed to arrive. What makes this pain so isolating is not the jealousy itself, but the silence around it. No one talks about the grief that hides inside comparison. The grief of imagined futures, the mourning of who you thought you'd be by now. So you keep smiling, you keep showing up, and you start to wonder not why you feel jealous, but why their life feels like a measuring stick you never agreed to use. That question doesn't go away. It follows you into the next chapter. Comparison didn't begin as cruelty. It began as orientation. Long before it felt poisonous, it was practical. As children, we learned who we were by watching who we weren't. Approval taught us direction. Attention taught us value. In rooms where love was limited, inconsistent, or conditional, comparison became a way to stay safe, to stay seen. You learned early how to scan the room. Who was praised? Who was overlooked? What earned warmth? What earned silence? Without realizing it, your nervous system took notes. It learned that worth could rise or fall based on position, that being ahead meant protection, and being behind meant risk. Even if no one said it outright, the message landed anyway. There is a right pace, and falling behind has consequences. So you adapted. You became alert, attuned. You watched trajectories the way others watched weather, not because you were competitive, but because being unprepared once had hurt too much. Comparison wasn't vanity, it was vigilance. This is why your jealousy doesn't feel loud. It feels anxious, quietly panicked. When someone close to you succeeds, an old alarm goes off, not saying "I want what they have," but "What happens to me now?" Your body remembers something your mind tries to forget. Maybe it remembers being the child who had to prove usefulness, or the one who was loved most when performing well, or the one who learned that falling behind meant disappearing. So when a friend moves forward, it doesn't just register as their progress. It registers as movement within a system you were trained to monitor. A system where worth felt comparative, not inherent. And here's the part most people never say out loud. You're not jealous of their success. You're grieving the version of you who thought you'd be further along by now. Comparison didn't start as self-hatred. It started as survival. But survival strategies don't retire themselves. They keep running long after the danger has passed, unless you learn to recognize them for what they are. And recognition is where the next ache begins. Your mind keeps score, even when you tell it not to. Especially then, somewhere beneath conscious thought, a quiet mechanism is always running, tracking position, progress, proximity, not obsessively, methodically, like a background app you never installed but can't delete. Every update about someone else's life feeds into it, not as envy, but as data. Neuroscience calls this social comparison, but that phrase is too clean for how it feels. What's really happening is older and more physical. The brain evolved to monitor rank, because rank once determined access to food, safety, belonging. Falling behind wasn't symbolic, it was dangerous. So when your friend succeeds, your brain doesn't ask, "Am I happy for them?" It asks, "Where does this place me?" The body responds before meaning catches up. A slight drop in mood, a tightening in the throat, a heaviness that has no obvious story attached to it. You might even feel tired afterward, as if you've run an invisible race you didn't sign up for. What makes this scoreboard so cruel is that it's asymmetrical. You track their highlights against your backstage moments, their announcement against your uncertainty, their clarity against your fog. The brain isn't comparing lives, it's comparing edited moments to unfinished chapters. And because the brain is efficient, it turns this into identity math. They're moving forward. I'm styled. Therefore, something is wrong with me. This is where jealousy quietly mutates. It stops being about them and becomes a verdict on you. A story of inadequacy written in sensations instead of words. You don't consciously believe it, but you feel it. And feelings don't require your permission to feel convincing. Even worse, the scoreboard never celebrates quietly. It amplifies losses, minimizes wins. When something good happens to you, it feels temporary. When something good happens to them, it feels definitive, permanent, proof. So you scroll. Congratulations. You spiral just a little. Not because you're cruel or insecure by nature, but because your brain is doing what it learned to do long ago. Equate progress with safety and delay with danger. Understanding this doesn't shut the scoreboard off, but it does change how seriously you take its verdicts. And once you start questioning the score, another conflict reveals itself, one that's been inside you longer than you realized. There are two voices that wake up when someone close to you succeeds. The first is sincere. It feels warm, pride, real affection. It wants to celebrate without reservation, to believe that another person's growth doesn't threaten your own. This part of you is honest and exhausted from being questioned. The second voice is quieter, but sharper. It doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in sensations. A tightening jaw, a heaviness behind the eyes, a sudden urge to withdraw, scroll, disappear. It asks nothing out loud, yet demands your attention anyway. These two selves don't hate each other. They don't even know each other's names. But they collide. You feel guilty for the second voice's existence. You judge it quickly. What kind of person feels this way? So you side with the first voice, the good one, and push the other underground. You double down on encouragement. You overcompensate with enthusiasm. You perform emotional correctness. And inside, the conflict deepens. Because the second self doesn't vanish when ignored. It waits. It turns inward. It transforms jealousy into self-criticism, comparison into shame. Instead of resenting them, you begin resenting yourself for not being further, faster, clearer by now. This is the real war. Not between you and your friend, but between the part of you that wants connection and the part that learned to protect itself through vigilance. One seeks closeness, the other scans for threat. Both believe they are keeping you safe, so you oscillate. One day you feel inspired by their success. The next, inexplicably drained by it. You wonder why relationships feel heavier lately. Why celebration costs more energy than it used to. Why do you need distance from people you genuinely care about? It's because holding two opposing truths at once is exhausting. You are happy for them, and their progress hurts. Not because you're flawed, but because no one taught you how to hold ambition without self-erasure or closeness without comparison. The war exists because both selves are still fighting for relevance. And wars don't end through suppression. They end when something finally interrupts the pattern. That interruption doesn't come as victory. It comes as a crack. The shift doesn't arrive dramatically, nor revelation, nor sudden relief. It happens in a small, almost forgettable moment when the familiar ache rises and, instead of arguing with it, you pause. Not to fix it, not to reframe it, just to notice it without accusation. For the first time, you don't call it jealousy. You feel the weight beneath it, the quiet disappointment, the tenderness you've been guarding, the grief of timelines imagined and futures postponed. And something unexpected happens. The feeling loses its sharp edge, not because it's gone, but because it's finally understood. This is where jealousy softens when it's recognized as grief. Grief for the version of you who thought life would look different by now. Grief for the effort that didn't translate into momentum. Grief for the belief that doing everything right would guarantee arrival. When you name that grief, the comparison loop falters. The scoreboard flickers, not off, but unstable. Because grief doesn't ask you to compete, it asks you to mourn. And mourning changes posture. Instead of scanning others for proof of your inadequacy, you begin to feel the weight of your own unmet hopes. The energy you've spent tracking progress turns inward, not as judgment, but as recognition. This hurts because it mattered. That recognition creates space. You stop needing to punish yourself for feeling behind. You stop insisting that gratitude should cancel pain. You allow both to coexist, appreciation for others and sorrow for yourself. Not as opposites, but as companions. This is not healing in the cinematic sense. There's no swelling music, no clean resolution. Just a quieter inner room where the feeling can sit without being interrogated. Jealousy doesn't disappear here. It transforms. It becomes a signal rather than a verdict. A message instead of a sentence. And messages, unlike verdicts, can be listened to without fear. In this moment, something loosens. You don't feel ahead. You don't feel behind. You feel present with the truth of where you are, not where you were supposed to be. That presence doesn't end the story, but it changes how the next chapter begins. The habit doesn't stop just because you've named it. Comparison still flares. The scoreboard still lights up. But something subtle has changed. You no longer mistake its numbers for truth. Witnessing begins where measuring ends. Measuring asks, where am I relative to them? Witnessing asks, what is happening inside me right now? It's a quieter question, but a more dangerous one, because it pulls attention away from external rank and back into lived experience. When someone else succeeds, you still feel the familiar dip, but instead of chasing meaning outward, you turn inward. You notice the contraction, the ache, the story your body is about to tell, and you don't rush to correct it. This is where most people panic. They assume that if they don't suppress comparison, it will consume them. But suppression was never what kept you safe. It only kept you busy. Witnessing does something different. It drains the feeling of urgency. You begin to see the pattern clearly. The spike of comparison, the impulse to self-criticize, the urge to withdraw or overperform. And because you see it, you don't have to obey it. Witnessing creates a small but critical gap between sensation and identity. The feeling arises, but it no longer defines you. You stop saying, "This means I'm failing," and start saying, "This is the familiar signal of wanting more." Wanting more doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you alive. So instead of using others as mirrors, you let them be witnesses to their own lives, separate trajectories, separate timing. Their success no longer has to explain your position. It simply exists. This is not detachment. It's differentiation. You begin measuring less and sensing more. You notice what energizes you, what drains you, what still feels unfinished. Not with panic, but with curiosity. The comparison loop loosens its grip because it's no longer being fed with attention. And in that loosening, something unexpected happens. Ambition returns, but cleaner, quieter, less reactive. It's no longer fueled by fear of falling behind, but by a desire to move toward what feels meaningful to you, even if no one is watching. You're not cured, you're calibrated. And calibration prepares you for the final echo, the part of this story that lingers after the ache has softened, but not disappeared. Even after everything shifts, something remains. Not the jealousy as it once was, sharp, accusing, loud, but an echo of it. a faint resonance that appears in quiet moments, when someone else moves forward and you briefly feel the old pull. It no longer hijacks you, it simply taps the glass. This is where the story ends, not with resolution, but with honesty. You learn that growth doesn't erase comparison, it changes your relationship to it. The echo is not a failure of progress, it's evidence of history, of a nervous system that learned early, adapted well, and is slowly learning a new language. Sometimes the echo arrives late at night, sometimes during celebrations, sometimes when you catch yourself wondering, is this all there is for me right now? And instead of spiraling, you pause. You recognize the sound. It's not telling you that you're behind. It's reminding you that you still care. Care about meaning, care about direction, care about a life that feels internally aligned, not externally impressive. That distinction changes everything. You stop trying to silence the echo. You let it pass through you like a weather system you no longer mistake for the sky itself. You understand now that comparison was never the enemy. It was a signal that outlived its original purpose. What replaces it isn't certainty, it's orientation. A quieter sense of self that doesn't need constant measurement to exist. A recognition that timelines are not moral hierarchies, and success is not a verdict on your worth. Just a chapter one of many, unfolding at different speeds for different people. The echo fades, then returns, then fades again. And each time it does, it leaves you a little less afraid of your own longing. Not healed, not finished, just more present with the truth of where you are, and less willing to abandon yourself for someone else's milestone. That's what lingers. And that's where the story lets you go.